Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Indianapolis. I'm Nick Miller alongside Kent Ketter. How you doing, sir?
Good, Nick.
Always good to see you.
Absolutely.
You haven't been out to as many Open Series events this year.
No, not this year.
It's always nice to see you. You're always playing something interesting.
I try to.
And we've seen a couple of people write about Bring to Light.
Mm-hmm.
You are playing a full-on Bring to Light deck.
Absolutely.
We're not 4 colors touching a 5th.
Nope.
We're full-on 5.
5 colors.
You can cast everything.
All the spells are good. I want to cast them all. Give me 4 ofs of all of these wonderful spells.
Right. So we've seen, as Jerry Thompson wrote about, Bring to Light being good and tuturables and getting a lot of Siege Rhinos.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You, of course, have the Siege Rhino package, but you also are doing something a lot of the Bring to Light decks are not doing, and that's Mantis Rider. You're doing a lot of curving just threats into threats in your build of the deck. Talk about kind of your theory behind the Bring to Light, archetypes.
So while Bring to Light can have the best 2-drops in the format with Jace and Hanger back, what we noticed in the mid-range matchups was the removal all seemed mediocre to bad. I mean, yes, it would kill something, that's fine, but as far as actually winning the game, casting creatures in sequence, regardless of kind of what they did, we tried Anafenzo over Mantis Rider, just felt super powerful. Right. I ended up going with Mantis Rider because when we were building the deck, we noted to avoid double-colored spells. That actually made the mana reasonable across 5 colors, quite a few sequences with a battle land on the 1. You can go basic, cast your things through, no problem. So it felt really nice to have Mantis Rider, which right now is only being killed by Draconic Roar and Fiery Impulse, if they're lucky, on the 2 or 3.
Right. So you've got kind of a more threat-based deck. Yep. And you have Jace, of course. Jace is great.
Of course, yeah.
But then hanger back into Mantis Rider, into Siege Rhino, into whichever of these other creatures you want to bring back with a Bring to Light. Absolutely. But what's interesting about your build is kind of your removal suite.
Yes, yes.
You're clearly aiming to kill Jace and Hangerback Walker with your Fiery Impulse. Yep. Which with Spell Mastery can kill Mantis Riders. Yep. On the other side of the board. Crackling Doom here, a card we see the Abzan deck splashing for. So it makes sense that you have it in here too. Abzan, Charm, Murderous Cut, your other kind of catch-alls. Yep. Any cards you wanted to try to fit in here or tweak?
Honestly, we had messed with the Crackling Doom and the Charm numbers back and forth, and then we came to the realization, and I've told everyone this today, Abzan Charm's the best spell in the format. Play it, lots of it. After we realized that, Crackling Doom seemed like a good catch-all in the mid-range matchups. It always takes their best creature. Currently in the format, it does feel like the best creature is always the biggest power on the board. Sure. Fleshbag Marauder, rare exception. And then Fiery Impulse, we were on 4. I mean, I really wanted to beat the Jace decks and beat the Hangerback Walker decks early and often, get a little help against aggressive decks. We eventually cut 1, and the tweak was to add a Murderous Cut. It also gave us a removal spell that we could get with Bring to Light that wasn't wasting an Abzan Charm or the 1 Utterin that we had put in the deck. So it ended up filling both roles. I love Murderous Cut. It lets you swing mid-range matchups just off of cast spells in sequence. The first turn that you go threat removal spell, it feels like you are stealing the game pretty heavily.
Right. Just like last format before rotation, that's what the Abzan decks wanted to do. They wanted to play a card, a threat of some kind, and a removal spell, and then take over the game from there. Yep. Fiery Impulse, a card that didn't get to see a lot of play previously because Wild Slash was everywhere, and Lightning Strike was usually in conjunction with that. Yes. This is your now kind of flex removal spot.
Yep. By removing an overall depth to the burn package, you have to kind of rein things back, play cards like Impulse, but this was a card that we were not on for a week or so before the tournament, and after casting it a couple times, I feel like Fiery Impulse is what solves the issue with the Bring to Light decks losing into more aggressive strategies. 1 mana removal is just so important because once you get to the 4 and 5 spots, Bring to Light is the best deck in the format on the 4 and the 5. 1 through 3, we're kind of juggling around, but when you go Rhinos into Rhinos, it feels pretty
There's
powerful.
no question what you're trying to do once you hit that amount of mana.
Absolutely.
You just want as many Siege Rhinos as possible. Then, of course, you have 2 targets here with Bring to Light and Utterin just to catch-all answer to everything. Yes. Then Ojutai, I assume this is doing great work against the Abzan and like the control strategies.
That is the intent. Many times you still check if Rhino is better. What I've run into with the Mantis Riders and the Rhinos and a little bit of the Crackling Dooms is there's a lot of matchups where, as much as Ojutai would be powerful, just getting an extra trigger is going to lock the game up a turn earlier. This deck does a great job of just providing pressure on every turn in small ways. So Ojutai has underwhelmed me, but he does exactly what he does. I'm glad to have the effect. I definitely have not been able to kind of unleash him. Most of the matchups seem to be fairly prepared for him with Abzan Charms and Crackling Dooms.
Right, this build in particular really kind of reinforces the idea of just wanting more Siege Rhinos, because you're doing stuff like Manus Rider and the other decks are not doing that. So you get this early clock where you get to make the gain and drain triggers actually be lethal a lot of times.
Yes, they are better in this deck than I think most decks in the format.
Okay. Sideboard, well, one thing of note before we move to the sideboard, no double mana cost anywhere in the main deck.
Nowhere in the main deck.
So your mana here is looking pretty good.
Yes.
Sideboard, you have 2 of those. You got a Tragic Arrogance and a Languish, your Wrath effects, basically 2 mana there, but I assume with the fetches and the battle lands. Oh, Bring the Light too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that combo deck.
Yes, yes.
So you get to find your Wraths when you need them.
We were very particular when building the deck to avoid double spells unless it was an effect you couldn't find anywhere else. And with the Wrath effects, it's all double spells, double white, double black out of Crux. So we accepted it with those 2, but most of the time on the 4 and 5, if you really need to cast Wrath in certain matchups, you just position towards it as opposed to like maybe forcing the Manus Rider on the 3, extra battle land into black Languish you. So.
Thought process behind wanting those in the board and not wanting 1 in the main deck you could tutor for?
So we considered it. That's kind of where the Utter Inslot came into play, but I was really wanting to focus on staying as more of a, and this is me just going within my wheelhouse.
Sure.
I wanted to build the main deck like monsters and not get too fancy with kind of the toolbox. I wanted to apply pressures as well as possible, play things that just killed their creatures and left mine alone. Tragic Arrogance was going to be the one to get the nod, but it was a balance with 5 mana. Basically, it should probably be in the main deck, but for right now it's not because I wanted to run it like this.
Right. And you've got quite the pedigree with the green-red monsters and the Jund monsters decks from formats before. A lot of top 8s there. Sideboard rounded out with Duress, Arashan Cleric. Got some control, got some aggro slots here.
The best cards for the respective matchups, so we just played 3 of each one. Arashan Cleric is paramount, is utmost importance against the aggro decks.
To go along with the Wrath effects, you got 2 Radiant Flames, which are basically sweepers when you can cast and use every color of mana.
They tie into the other 2 Wraths, so we have a nice 4 package for any of the aggressive decks. We can just actually keep casting Wraths and stay ahead on them. It's also nice with Radiant Flames with a little bit of positioning. You cast it for 2. Let your Manus Rider live.
Sure.
Not too hard to do. That's why I love the Radiant Flames.
Yes. You get to kind of manipulate that around either Manus Rider or Siege Rhino, I assume.
Yes.
Keep your threats around, there's gone away.
Absolutely.
Round it out, you got some counter spells, Disdainful Stroke Negate, a Feed the Clan, and Den Protector.
So the Disdainful Strokes, it's still great, folks. Keep playing the card. It's one of the cleanest ways to answer Rhino. That should be enough to make it popular.
Or the 8 copies of Rhinos.
Absolutely. So we left it over there because there are certain spells that you don't want to deal with the after effects. You want to just cut it off at the source. Not many. Stroke does that. The Negate was just a nod to the control strategies and wanting a little bit more counter magic. Den Protector, just some redundancy. It boards in a lot of places. It maybe was supposed to be in the main deck, back and forth. The Feed the Clan is probably the worst card in the sideboard, but the effect against the aggro decks. If we can go Manus Rider, Rhino, and even if I bring to light for Feed the Clan, 10 life should be enough. We accepted that as the solution for now. There's definitely going to be a better combination as the deck gets developed, but it provided me an effect I wanted. In week 1, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I think it's powerful enough that folks will have to react to me, even though they don't think they do.
Right.
They realize at about turn 5 that maybe I'm kind of the beatdown.
Yeah, you look at the shell and people are going to assume the Bring to Light deck's not going to be putting that much pressure on, but you're flipping the script here. You've got all the beatdowns. Of course, Treasure Cruise too. We didn't want to forget that one, but
you just got to draw 3 cards and then flashing it back with Jace. It's a draw 6, or should be a draw 6 in the deck, and that's exactly what I wanted. Just 2 of them. Dig Through Time, double blue, so we scratched that.
Right.
Started casting cruises and realized every card in the deck's insane, so let's just draw some copies of stuff.
All right. Well, Kent, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. It's nice to see your take on the Bring to Light deck. we are going to see a bunch of these moving forward, and it's just these times of permutations that are going to be interesting to look at as the format moves on.
I think this is going to define the early parts of the season, is figuring out what the version of this deck is and beating it. So
stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Indianapolis.